Hey guys, welcome to another video with me, Coach Matt. Today we're going to be discussing a little bit of Grunfeld setup gameplay. We're going to continue our discussion on the Grunfeld setup, and we're going to play through a few permutations of how things might unfold in real life situations. So we've got a better understanding and some ideas that we can use to back up some of the opening theory that we've already learned. All right, guys, let's get into it. Okay, so what is the Grunfeld setup? Just as a quick introduction, I think it's easy for us to remember. Whenever I remember a new system or a new opening, whatever I focus on is to remember where the pieces go. What are the squares that I want to put those pieces on? So I know this knight needs to go to f6. I know this pawn needs to go to d5. From there, I remember, wait a second, I need to fianchetto this dark squared bishop. That normally comes with g6, bishop g7. That follows or leads into castling. And that's a great start. Already, we've basically done all the key elements that we need to have done. All right, so that's all sorted. Then we go with c5, then we go with knight c6, depending, of course, on what white brings our way. Let's check it out. d4, knight f6, knight f3, d5. Worth mentioning, if they go a queen's gambit here, which is quite popular. Maybe I don't see a lot of queen's gambit amongst you guys, but it is quite popular overall. People is a fan of queen's gambit, so you need to have some form of idea of what to do. I'd still continue with g6. Once knight c3 comes in, then you can go d5. I suppose if you went d5 previously, you can get away with it. E takes d, knight takes d, and it's the idea we just fight back for the center. If e4, which is generally the main move here, you can go knight takes c3 and bishop g7. Now you see this feature of this dark squared bishop along this diagonal is a very important one. And most of the time, you'll see it in the other position that we're going to go through in just a moment's time. But you're always looking for c5 to pressure the hinges of this structure. So, for instance, let's say white plays, I think bishop c4 is one of the main moves here. Let's check it out. I would probably just go c5 immediately, although it's good practice to just castle. Let's say knight f3, probably one of the best ways to defend this d4 pawn. Castles is safe. Remember, at no stage are we in any danger of d takes c. This is just losing immediately for white with bishop c3 check and bishop a1. So that looks like it's dropping some heavy material. Maybe not the end of the world. Bishop d2 and bishop a1, queen a1. But I think this is more a case of the fact that it's never over. It's amazing in chess how many defensive resources are out there. And if you guys keep your eyes peeled and keep your wits about you, you'll really be able to find these amazing resources. When you think the chips are down, I almost guarantee you that there's something there. The question is, can you guys find it? Let's not get too distracted with that, though. Let's return to our setup. So just a reminder, you're looking to fianchetto the dark squared bishop. You'll throw d5. And later on, once that's done, you're going to play c5 to pressure the center. Let's see it in another variation. This time d4, knight f6, knight f3. White not opting to go the queen's gambit, which is d4, c4. White going with knight f3, which could go into a lot of systems. Bishop f4 is the London, which I've previously spoken to you guys about. I've done a little video on that one. Quite popular. I think what we'll do now, just to mix it up a little bit, is let's talk about bishop g5. So bishop g5, again, my outline of my plan, you're like, what was he saying again? Oh, yes, g6, bishop g7, and c5. That's sort of our go-to idea. What I like to do against bishop g5, because it's a little bit different And I'm not a huge fan of when they go bishop takes f6 here. I'm not going to lie, it is playable. You can get away with it. E takes f6, then you'll just go bishop g7. So let's say something like this. Bishop g7, bishop d3. Castles again, as usual. Castles as white. And now you're like, this bishop's not looking that pretty on this square. So I need to probably play f5. So alternatively, you can either go bishop g4 and get rid of the bishop like this so that you then play f5. Or you can just play f5 in this position. So the bishop is almost reborn. He's kind of open. Remember, bishops like rooks, they need space. Bishops want long diagonals. Rooks want open files. So always try and keep your pieces active. It's not just enough to activate your pieces off the back rank, but you need to put them on good squares. You need to put them in places where they can do the best work. Okay, so bishops, long diagonal, space. Don't cramp your bishop up. And that's one of the reasons why I was considering going bishop g4 and removing the bishop, because this light squared bishop is not looking fantastic. But there's a couple options. You could always go b6 and bishop a6. Or maybe later on you could try and push f4 and then get this diagonal happening. A couple options when there's always an idea. But the one I want to discuss with you guys here is knight e4, which is quite also a common feature in any d4, d5 when the bishop goes to g5. You pop the knight onto e4 and it now attacks the bishop on g5. So most of the time, I see the bishop returning in these situations. White not interested in allowing black to grab this bishop. So of course, if they did that, you would just continue with your general plan: g6, bishop g7, castles with c5. How would that look? That would look something like this. c5 is good. And then again, you see that common feature where taking is almost always a bad idea for white. In this case, we'd have bishop b2 and the a1 rook would be trapped. So from here, you could decide how you wanted to do things. c4, cd, queen b6 also can be interesting in these positions. And then, of course, don't forget to develop your last two pieces here. Let's say after knight e4, as our main variation here, let's say white just continued with e3 and he let us grab the bishop. We're like, absolutely, very happy to take that bishop off your hands. I can actually probably get away with playing moves like e5 in this position because I strike straight back for the center with a tempo on the knight. But let's not confuse things too much. Let's just keep it simple with by following our principles and just trying to really learn this structure. So g6, let's say knight d2. Knight c3 doesn't make a great deal of sense. So let's go here. Let's go here. Now I might do it. This knight's lurking on this square a little bit too long. Check this little tactic. e5, there's a tempo on the knight. So if the knight goes back to h3, that just seems suspect. We know the knight doesn't like the edge of the board. We also know that this is very dangerous for the white king, and this structure is very weak. But the alternative is worse. If knight back to f3, we get a little fork and a double attack, and black wins a piece. So all is not well for white. But I think, of course, they didn't have to go down this path. They could have just played knight f3, head the knight back, which feels like white's losing a lot of time. But, of course, it's better than dropping a piece. Bishop d3, and then again c5. Let's say c5. Let's say castles. Knight c6, which I like here. It puts more pressure. After c3, which defends this pawn, we probably have to defend this pawn ourselves. We can go b6 and just go bishop b7. And that way we've completed our development and we've got all of our pieces in the game. Let's see something like queen c2 seems all right. Bishop b7. And now white's got some thinking to do. Normally I like to break in the center with the white pieces, but I don't think you definitely can't get away with it in this position. The e4, d4 pawn rather, sorry, big trouble. Let's try rook e1. Rook c8 feels like an obvious move. There's a little bit of space on this file. The rook's active here at the right time. C takes d. I definitely am a fan of this position for black. It feels like they've got a lot of good attacking opportunities. You can also look to strike in the center with e5. Guys, I'd love it very much if you would go through these variations, maybe on a chess board or even on the lead chess. There's an analysis board there under the tools tab, analysis board, and you can try and play through these moves on your own to really master this system. And you've got a new sort of opening structure that you guys can try out and see if you like it, and then hopefully catch people with a few tricks and win a few extra games, you know, add some new weaponry to your guys' attacking chess. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, take care and bye-bye.